Right, at this stage, all we've done is we have brown inked the wood, and once that's dry, I have done a dry brush of the Catachan brown and the snakebite leather. So obviously these two paints. I've done basically a 50-50 mix, and I've just done a very quick dry brush of the wood, just to give it a little bit more of a, not worn effect, but just so it stands out a little bit more. Right, the next thing we're going to do is the metals. When I say metals, I basically mean the bronze and the gold. So all the window frames and the door frames, so this door frame here, the little I suppose dead cherubs, or the frame around the skulls, the little, I suppose, decorative flowers, they're all going to be gold, and that will be burnished gold. Again, I don't know what the new name for it's called, but if you go on Google and just type in like a Games Workshop colour converter, it should tell you on there. So yeah, I'm going to do basically all of them that gold first. The bronze, which will be the spikes on top, so it'll be these bits here, that one. I'm literally just going to paint the inside of that, the dwarf bronze, straight away, because it's already had the ink on it already, which is already dry nicely. So yeah, so I shall get all the gold done, and we'll come back. Okay, we've done all of the gold and the brass. Obviously the gold's gone over all the trim of the doors and the windows. The brass has gone on these little rivets here just above these metal vents. They're quite a few of them to do. It was quite fiddly. Once the gold had dried, I'll actually put the brown ink over the top of it, but it was quite heavily watered down, about 50-50 mix with the brown ink and water. Also on the top of it, we've done the brass in these bits, just literally just covering them ever so slightly, just in the bits in between. I suppose there, yeah, in between, like these edges, because these edges will be metal. I'll go over them, because there's no point in doing them now, because I'll end up going back over them to touch them up. So I've literally just gone in the centre bit. Same here. I've gone all the way around it because there's obviously 4 sides to it. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go back to the gold, and we're going to give the gold the highlight, I suppose, or dry brush of the shining gold. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the gold areas. You can leave it like this. It gives it quite a nice, dulled down weathered effect. But I've decided to go over it with the shining gold, just to brighten up a bit, make it stand out a little bit more. Because I will go over it when I actually come to the weathering. So the weathering, there'll be obviously grime, streaks, there'll be soot, rusts on the metal, on the brass and copper bits. There'll be is it zinc oxide that happens when pipes go, copper pipes go funny colour. So yeah, so I should do the dry brushing, and yeah, we'll come back to it. Right, all the shining gold, that's what it's called. Yeah, all the shining gold has been done. Just a very, very light dry brush around the edges of the frames. You can't really notice it too much. It's mostly when I've been dry brushing, it's mostly hit all the rivets and stuff. So it's actually turned out quite nice, like subtle, but it's quite nice. I've also dry brushed all the skulls as well with the Ushabti bone paint. So yeah, I've done just quickly done all them a quick dry brushing. So obviously, as you can see here, they've all been dry brushed. Just a very, very light dry brush. I wanted to keep them dark, and because obviously I didn't want them too bright, because it would look like too fresh, the skulls. So yeah, I've done a very light dry brush. Again, dry brush these with the shining gold, just to bring them out, really, just make them look a bit more, but like I said, make them stand out a little bit more. So yeah, so the next thing we're going to do will be, what should we do? Probably do the wires and the cables, really. I mean, we're not too far off, just not too far off finishing it, really, for the weathering. So we'll do the wires and the cable. So we're obviously going to have all of this bit of this panel, sorry, with all the skulls in. There's obviously quite a few obviously wires and cables in there. So yeah, so you probably see it a little bit better. So you've literally, it's laced with wires and cables all around the centerpiece, the skulls. Mostly congregating around this area here, really, to just channel into this one skull. On the interior, we've got these wires here. Now these wires, oops, all right, there we go. These wires are for the electrics. So yeah, I'm definitely going to paint these. I'll probably paint one, because they're intertwined. I'll probably paint one cable red and one cable blue, and then just obviously zigzag it. Not zigzag it, sorry, but I won't paint the back of the cable, because there's no point. My theory is there's no point painting a part of a model if it's never going to be seen. So it's so I won't worry about painting the back of the cable. There's also another cable at the top. So yeah, we've got this cable here, which I'll paint. This little wire here that goes under the floor, I'll quickly give that a quick splash of paint as well. There's also one here, which is obviously, that's the side of the light. I shall keep that side of the light black, just so it. Could I paint it? I might paint it a grey colour, actually, just to hide it a little bit more. But I'll paint them parts of the wires there. These wires on the bottom, I will paint these few wires here, but the bunch of wires I'm not going to touch, because obviously they're going to be under the plinth, the ammo plinth. So I think that'll be about it for the wires and the cables. There's actually some here on the front as well, on the door section. Under these skulls there's some wires there that I'll get them painted as well. So yeah, basically all you want to be doing is I'll be using Mordine blue and Mechanite red, both foundation paint. So it'll just take one coat, so they'll go on really quick and really easy. And I'll just alternate between the two. I shall do all the blue cables and then do all the red cables. So yeah, we shall come back once I have done all them. Right, we've done all the cables and all the wires and stuff. Let's quickly show you this one. This is obviously the front panel. I'm quite happy how the way it turned out. It looks a bit busy. But it is, supposed to be with all the cables and wires and stuff. You can ignore them, but then you're missing out on all that extra detail, really. The wires and cables from the interior. So we've got those two at the top there, at the back. And we've got one just on top as well. So I've got this one here, just on top, and then, like I said, the last part, just done this small bit here as well, just very small, just done that silver. So yeah, so that's all the wires done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go on to the last part before we do the base, which will be the weathering. Now I forgot to mention these two paints that we're going to use for the weathering. So I'll obviously mention them now. We've got nickel oxide. It's basically the weathering techniques, and then we've got Raz Rust. So both the technical paints both work really well. So I'll do that. I'll do these on camera, I suppose. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do the Raz Rust. I'll just quickly do one piece of that and show you. Now the Raz Rust is is basically for anything metal. So it will be for like these downright struts here. So obviously this one and the one on the corner there, the one on the edge. So this one here. So yeah, so basically how you got to imagine it is the rust would gather where it's got damp, you know, where it's got wet. So it's just a case of obviously doing the bits where you think it, you know, water would have got at, and obviously because it's the outside of the building, you know, water will get most places. But instead of doing every single piece of the metal rusted, you can do it better. You can highlight the areas where the water would have pooled. So obviously if the water is dripping down the metal, it will streak down it quicker, and then when it gets to a certain area it will pool a lot more. So we'll just get a little bit of this Raz Rust out on the palette. Now it is a dry, quite a dry paint, or I'll say paint, a technical paint. And for this I'm using a very old large dry brush. You can see how frayed the edges, but it gives it quite a nice finish really with that with this Raz Rust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit out of my palette, and then I'm going to wipe it off just like a standard, just like how you do dry brushing, how you dry brush anything really. So a bit on the palette, and I'm just wiping the excess off on a tissue. Where are we? There we are. Alright, I test a bit on my thumb, see if it's alright. Yeah, it's okay. It doesn't want to be too much on there. So all we're going to do is I'm going to do the top area here, because obviously as the water drips down from the break in the building, it'll probably pool at this area. So all you're doing is basically just stippling it, like a bit of a stipple effect. Stipple that top area, and then obviously as the strut comes down here, literally right on that far corner, just gonna almost not paint, but flick your brush across that edge. So yeah, I'm actually quite happy with that. And then obviously if you want to do this top bit here, I'm trying not to get it on the light, because the paint would itself go around the light. Not the paint, sorry, but the water. So I just do very lightly now, like working it down on that bottom corner. And then obviously you can have this area here where it would pool. That's same again, almost all the way around, but you don't want to do it all the way around because it would just look too uniform. So might want to do a little bit midway down, possibly. Obviously at the floor, because that's where it would pool the most. So yeah, so I shall leave that for now. Right, then the Nalaka oxide. You're going to need a detail brush for that. We'll quickly find one. Alright, now this paint is very watery. It's designed to basically seep in all the cracks and crevices of whatever it is you're going to be painting. So I should just crack it open here. Right, now this is basically for all the brass and bronze and things like that. So I'm going to do it along these bits here. Obviously you can just see it there, because that's where the brass is. I may do it on the top of the spikes as well, just slightly around the corners, because obviously for brass and copper, once they get too wet or expose the elements too much, they turn like a greeny bluey colour. So we'll quickly use a small amount of this. Now for this, the best technique for this is less is more. If you put too much on, it will look too fake. If you put not enough on, you won't even notice it, because it's designed to seep into all the cracks and crevices and stuff. So just get a little bit on the brush here. See this bit. just wipe away the excess with your thumb or finger or whatever. We'll do this bit as well. So you do a bit around the nut, or on the side of it there. On the side and that far side there, and you can have it coming down there. And yeah, that is basically it really. When it dries, the water element out of it, the water element dries quite quick and leaves a pigment. So it's so it does. Although it doesn't look right once you've painted it on straight away. After a few minutes, once it's dried, it gives it a really, quite a good effect really. But like I said, you don't want to paint the whole lot this colour because it'll look crap, and it'll be, basically ruin the model. It's got too much. It just looks too fake really, too painted on. You could do like in the side there. Another good technique that you can use is you can combine the two. So you can combine the rust with this oxide. So you can obviously, as I'm doing this rust bit on this part here, the actual metal bit, you can use the rust and basically double up the weathering effects. So what I'll do is I shall leave that for now. I'll do all the rust and all the or the oxide. Then I shall do the final weathering, which will be the streaking grime. Right, I've done the rust and the oxide weathering. I'm going to quickly do the streaking grime as well now. I'll show you the streaking grime, how I use it, and then I'll obviously show you all the weathering once it's all done and complete. So we're going to be using the AK Interactive Streaking Grime. Now it's really good stuff, but the only downside is you have to have white terps to use it. So whether you need an adult there to help you, or you have to go and buy your terps yourself. So all you're doing is you're just giving it a good shake, the AK Interactive, because it does separate. It does, if you leave it sat in your painting shelf for too long or wherever, it does separate into the liquid on the top and the pigments on the bottom. So just give it a good shake. And once you just be careful when you screw the lid off, because there is a protective cap. Can we see it there? See, there's no cap in it. It's actually managed to pull off and sit on top. So just be careful when you take that off. You don't want it to go everywhere as you taking the cap off it. I just push the cap back in the lid. Now you're best off using old brushes for this if you're going to use the AK Interactive pigment, for the simple fact that it does literally ruin your brushes. So I'm using an old detailed brush at the minute. Now like I said earlier on, when you're doing weathering, less is more kind of thing. So here the streaking grime would be obviously where the rain has hit and it's pulled into like a muddy, mossy type thing, and over time it's more and more rains hit it and it's just streaked down a building. So I'm going to do it on this top bit here. Now all I'm doing is I'm not painting it on. I'm just kind of like dabbing it, basically where a bit that I've rusted over the top that I didn't need it to be so much. So I should just dab a little bit there, and probably a small bit there. And I'll probably just leave it as that for now. Now, the only thing is with the AK Interactive stuff is you kind of have to leave it to dry. I may do a little bit on the top here as well, so I do it while I'm at it. Yeah, you have to leave it to dry. That's the only downside. So while those few bits there are drying, I'll probably just put another couple of bits in actually. Save me doing it off camera later on, I suppose. Yes, it is really good stuff. The only downside is it probably takes a good 5 to 10 minutes to dry, unless you've got a hair dryer that you use. Another good place to put this streaking grime pigment from AK Interactive is possibly like on the top of stuff. So put it like on the top of that metal bracket there and drag it down the side. And like I said, I know it doesn't look like much now, but once you basically when it dries, you then use your terps on a really old brush, and you basically drag the brush down the like the little pores that you've made, once it's dry obviously, and it leaves part of the pigment behind but liquefies it again. So it's, I don't know, it's quite weird to explain really, but it just, you know, it just works really well. There's plenty of videos on YouTube. Just type in sorry, you know, AK Interactive streaking grime, and there'll be loads of you know, helpful videos on the internet. I think, in fact, I think the AK Interactive actually do their own you know, their own videos, which are, you know, really handy. Which I've used you know, a couple of times, and I would recommend definitely using it. So yeah, just paint a few more. Obviously, the more you put on, the more that it's going to streak. So like I say, just be careful. You know, just even if you just put on like a small pinhead amount, that'll probably be better off it being like that kind of small amount rather than a like a pea size amount, for the simple fact that, you know, that's a lot of, you know, a lot of streaking that is going to be going on there. So yeah, so I should just leave them to dry, and we'll come back and start streaking it in a bit. Right, well, those bits now dry, we're going to use a bit of terps. I've got some here already in a glass bottle here. And what I want to do, or how I do it, is I put a little bit on the palette on my very old plate, then I use a bit of tissue, and I basically make I suppose like a little pool of terps on the tissue, but it's also drying it off. And then with this bit here, if you see that, yeah, this little bit in the corner, you're basically using it, or I use a very old brush, I know that one that I'll never use again, and you're basically dragging the bit that you've put the blob of AK Interactive on it, and you're just like dragging it down. Now, because it's an old brush, it's like it's frayed, so as it's dragging it down, it's not quite obviously doing it in one streak. It's doing it in like a fanned effect. We'll do this to this top bit as well. So as we drag it down again here, and you see it's like dragging it down to one corner, and because it's still got terps on it, you can wipe off like the excess. And this little bit on the top here, what we can do is you can just feather that a little bit just to give it like a little bit like brown effect. Now you can just use normal if the Games Workshop brown ink, but I really like using this stuff. It gives it, you know, a really good effect, because whereas the ink can be just like one straight line, whereas this does it in like a just more of a fanned effect really. So drag that down there. A little bit more terps. And this one. Yeah, all you're doing is literally just passing the brush over the bit you've done, and get rid of that bit on the top. And we could do this bit on here as well. Now, like I said earlier on, less is more. So as it's dragging down, you know, if you think that's enough, you know, just feel free to leave it. You know, don't worry about making sure it's all completely dragged down. Like these ones here that you can see I've done these already, just kind of reminding myself how I've been doing them. Turn it to the side. I could do these bits as well. So I want a bit more terps. or white spirits, depending on where you're from, I suppose. This bit. And you're just using that dragging technique all the way, really. It's on top there. You can almost like rub it away. Because if you rub it like side to side as well on top, it gives it the effect that it's pooled, and as the water's funneled down into a groove in the concrete, and it's stripped down. So it always gives it, just a little nice finishing move, really. Same for that one there. That's quite nice. That one. I'll use a finger on that one. That was still a little bit wet, actually, but it's all right. We can get around that. And yeah, there we go. So that's those bits there of the streaking grime. Now I get to do the. I think there's a little bit under here that I'll quickly do. Can't really see it now. There it is. Is it? See, I struggle to see it in this light. I was trying to get the camera angle right. Happy with that. Alright, so I shall do all the rest of these grime effects, and then I shall show you the complete weathering, and then I suppose it's literally just the base to after that. Right, now I've got the model completely weathered, so a bit of a better close up now. I can pick the camera up off the tripod, it's a lot easier. So as you can see, a bit more of the close detail of skulls, the rusting, the oxidising of the copper and stuff around the pipes. A bit more of the weathering around the top. You can see a bit more of the streak and grime up on the top there. Yeah, just exactly the same technique. Just put it on and drag it down with your brush, really. So yeah, around this corner as well. You see I've taken off the bits of blue tack for the lights. Let's just spin it around. So yeah, it's around the corner there on the bottom. Some more of the oxidising stuff you might see in that corner. See, it's just very subtle, but it's things like that that people pick up on. Like around more of the grime, streaking grime around the that bottom of that skull there in the centre of the window, and the same up here for the nuts, or for the bolts. So yeah, I'm happy with the way it's turned out. Just got the base to do, and obviously the drop pod. I've been thinking I might go for something nice and easy for the drop pod. Might go Iron Hands, possibly even Raven Guard, as they are black as well. Yeah, so the inside of the building. A bit more of quite a big streak there. The bits up there that we've seen already. So yeah, I'm happy with the way it has turned out. Done a bit more of the little box that's going to go on top of the, obviously on top of the power pack. I will obviously weather it a little bit more, put some blood stains on it and things like that. So right, here we've got the obviously the finished model. I've finished the base. I've done the completely finished the drop pod now. I've gone for like the iron hands for the simple fact that it was iron hands chapters probably one of the easiest chapters to paint because it's mostly just black and silver. Even though it's easy to paint, it comes out as being quite effective really. And to be honest, Iron Hands is one of my favourite chapters. I did do an Iron Hands army a long time ago. But yeah, as you can see, the base is all finished. The plinth is finished. That's hiding the wires and the power pack. I've done some minor details on the building itself. So inside the building, we've done a Nurgle symbol. Obviously dripping with green ooze. Did it do any more details inside? I think there's on top here. Just showing you some more of the detail that I did. Did 8-pointed star with a come to chaos next to it, and then obviously a big pool of blood next to it. It could either be pictured as a chaos worshipper being shot and killed, or a sacrifice that happened there. Possibly, you could just let your imagination run wild, really. An ammo box. Just very quickly did like a bit of blood next to the on the side of the ammo box, and not actually inside it. I just add a little bit of extra detail to it. The base of the building, I've basically how I did that is obviously I painted it completely Eshin grey. After that, I did a very light dry brush of Codex grey, and then finally I did an even lighter, like almost there was no paint on my brush at all, of white, skull white. I don't know what I think is it White Scars White or something like that nowadays. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. And then I used a very watered down brown ink, or is it Devlin Mud ink, to basically just do small blemishes on the floor. So you can see obviously this one, that one there, a couple around here, and yes, a couple around the front, but obviously around the drop pod I used my black ink, not black ink, armour wash, sorry, almost straight from the pot, and then I mixed a little bit of black ink with it just to go around the closest bit of the drop pod, so it's like got a little bit of scorched earth around it, obviously where it's hit and burnt and things like that. And then at the edge of that, so obviously if I did the bit that's really close up to the model with the black ink and armour wash, further away from the model I did Nuln oil, because it's obviously a little bit more watered down. The pigments of that paint actually show through a little bit less than the black ink and armour wash, so obviously I almost blended it out. The Marines inside, obviously Iron Hands, they're pretty much completely black, armoured, blue eye lenses with silver trim. Really easy to do, quite quick and simple to get the effect. The blood, I just used the technical paint, is it Blood for the Blood God or something like that, and I did it, I wanted to symbolise that these models were almost freshly dead, so I did a bit of blood around the neck and just let it drip down. I used my brush a little bit just to drag it down, just to assist it, because it's quite a thick and oily paint. Same for this one here. Just literally just around the neck and just dragged it down to give it a little bit more of a effect, for the fact that you knew it was knew it was dead. Weathering for the drop pod. I won't go into that too much detail because it was too easy. It was literally a sponge, which just ripped to the shape that I wanted. in chainmail and then just literally just wiped a little bit off, so it was almost like a dry brush, and then just dabbed the model. And yeah, that was it really. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it's going to help you to do your your own scenery. So yeah, so thanks for that, and make sure you click like or and subscribe. It really does help the channel. Just starting off, obviously. So yeah, so this is the building with the with its lights on in its full glory. See if we can get the damn thing to focus. See, yeah, with its lights on. Obviously when it's in the dark it's a little bit more of a obviously haunting effect, and the lights on in the days, not particularly the best of ideas. But yeah, I'm really happy the way it turns out, and hope to get some more done to bring you guys some battle reports. So yeah, cheers guys, I'll speak to you next time, and happy geeking.